Hey everybody, I'm Andrew Ferguson of Redwood Fellows. Welcome to Stories from the Grove, a podcast production of Redwood Fellows made possible thanks to the generous support of CCM. Our media is filled with examples of people exploiting their differences to pull us apart. This is different. Stories from the Grove is about leaders who seek to lean into their differences so they can understand each other, find common ground to strengthen Connecticut. I hope you enjoy Stories from the Grove.
Erik Clemons.
Caroline Tanbee Smith.
Yeah. I want to start off again by saying I'm just happy to be with you.
Yeah.
In this really formal but informal way.
That's right.
We always see each other and pass by and so forth. And I was thinking in the moment about what I could start off by saying to you, and it hit me. Just the other day, Tuesday, I met with a Yale Divinity School professor, and I was doing this kind of last project, before graduation, which is like in a week and a half for me. Yeah, and we were talking about, and I wanted to talk about the finality of things, right? Mm-hmm. Right. This thing called eschatology, the end times, the study of the end times, and I attributed the finality of things to the losing of my wife, and I lost my wife to COVID in 2020, but I also wanted to talk. I wanted to attribute the idea to what is happening in New Haven and what is happening in terms of leadership. And the question that I got from a very dear friend and wise sage, Miss Jackie Bracey, and as you know, I do, I'm kind of creating the built environment in Dixwell, right?
Yeah.
And she asked me this question. She said, Erik, why is it that anytime things become new, that the old has to die? And the finality of that, in that question, I wanted to kind of raise up. And I attribute it to the loss of my wife at first in this conversation with this professor, and the questions that I had about the world, and the questions that I had about myself in the world now without my wife, and the answers that I was looking for. Mm-hmm. And she said to me, I don't believe there are answers. And I said, I think you're right. So she said, if there are no answers, then what do you think? I said, I've found that the questions are the answer. And I wanted to kind of use that as hopefully a through line, or an element of our conversation. Because I think that there are always these ways in which people in the world, and I'll use New Haven, are looking for answers. And I believe the questions are the answers. The questions that they have are the answers. And the question that Ms. Bracey posed to me was an answer. Excuse me, as it relates to the built environment. And I want to connect that to leadership and all that you do and all that I do, about the questions that one has.
Yeah. So beautifully said, and resonates a thought and a question for you based off that. One is that you lifting questions makes sense because a lot of sense to me, because I did, much to Andrew's chagrin, prepare for this conversation, and I reflected on 6 questions that I've always wanted to ask you.
Really?
And they span from things like understanding to prediction to mistakes to choice. So hopefully we'll get to maybe 1 or 2 of those.
I will answer any question you have.
And even if you answer for the question.
That's right.
And this is not one of them, but a question I have for you that's just based on that really beautiful reflection you gave about your professor, your Yale professor. is my mom has had a lot of health challenges since I was 13 years old. Last year, she had a bone marrow transplant, and which is sort of extraordinary that we can have the ability to have new blood.
Yeah.
Right now, she has new blood, 95% new blood.
That's incredible.
And so, a poem or a poet that I turned to last year was T.S. Eliot, who I kind of have a belief that all of T.S. Eliot's poems are kind of the same, which maybe we're all, there's a micro theory that all of us are sort of, to your point about questions, pursuing one question or pursuing one idea throughout the arc of our lives, maybe approaching it from different windows. But I think T.S. Eliot's central premise in so many of the poems I read of his is that the end is the beginning, and that there's not that much different, really, between the end and the beginning. And so my question for you is, what do you think? Does that feel true to you, or how would you piece through the difference, or what is the same about the beginning and the end of things?
Yeah, that's a great question. And, I will go to my mother, very much the way you went to your mother. And, my mom just passed. She passed in January 2026. And January 26th, 2026. Yeah. And she had a very pronounced dementia as well as colon cancer. And there was a point where my sister and I made a decision to place her in home hospice. And so she lived with my sister. And we got a hospital bed and a nurse. And the nurse and my sister and myself would kind of rotate, my sister taking the brunt of the service to my mom. And maybe, Caroline, the last 2 weeks of her life, I would go there and sit by her bed and I would read. Because most often she didn't know I was there, and if she did, she didn't know who I was. But reading makes me feel comfortable, and it made me feel human in that moment. And so there was a moment where I spoke about this in a speech I gave, where I touched her hand. I'm sorry, she touched my hand, and she knew who I was, so she said my name. And in that moment, I started thinking about the fact that my mom is now like a child. Yeah. And I'm the adult. And so beginning and end, you're right. Yeah. I think they are the same. I think we just play different roles in them in those moments. Right? And so the end for my mom in this life, she became almost infantile. And now I'm having to be the parent taking care of her. And so there was just a role reversal, but the same kind of moment in time, if you will, or windows in time. And so I do think that. Yeah. And I do think, going back to you talking about your mom having a marrow transplant, and how incredible that is, and if I even think more deeply about that, I think just given the work that you're doing, it is very much what you're doing in community. It's like giving a marrow transplant to the city of New Haven, especially in the place in which you chose to serve. And in doing so, there is those moments in time that are no different, that whether they be beginning or the end, they are no different, right? They are just different actors within the frame of that time. And so I do agree with that. I think they are the same, and again, that they are just different actors being practitioners in those windows of time. Yeah. And so yeah, I agree with that. I hope I answered your question.
You did, and a reflection back to you and And then another just little kernel of a question. So, I mean, one, I'm so sorry for your loss.
Thank you.
You know, if magic exists, I think motherhood and the experience of having a mother is magic. Seems like more extraordinary magic than being able to move, teleport from one area to the other to be loved by a mother. And so I'm so sorry for your loss. Thank you for sharing. Question I have for you about beginning and end is, when you now zoom into this moment in time, what are you at the beginning of and what are you at the end of?
Great question. I am at the beginning of thinking about life differently.
Yeah.
Living in the world, not by myself, but, because I have friends and I have people that love me and who I love. But seeing life differently because I see myself differently. For the last 6 years, I've been trying to figure out the world.
Yeah.
And the mistake that I made was I wasn't trying to figure myself out. I was trying to figure out this big thing and how do I navigate this thing, especially being a person or having a persona.
Yeah, of course.
That I don't really believe in, but others do. And so how do I navigate that?
Yeah.
Like, how do I show up in a way that I am authentic to who I am and who I believe I'm going to be, while trying to satisfy what people think of me and the expectations that people have of me. And so, so kind of coming out of that, and being okay with disappointing some people, right?
Yeah.
Not being as profound as people would think I am or want me to be, right?
Yeah.
Or even being probably more subtly profound than people thought I was.
Right. That's right.
And so there's always that thing, right? My relationship to the world, and will I disappoint or will I inspire?
Yeah.
Because I don't know what people think of me. And so coming out of that, to answer your question, and not caring about that anymore.
Yeah.
Right? Just doing the work that I've been called to do and trying to do it as excellent as possible. Right? Because it is, I believe leadership is not instruction, it's demonstration. And so just really focusing on that, like the demonstration of life in a way that unveils a truth to people and that liberates a truth in people.
Yeah.
That's all I care about now. And so that's kind of the new way of, or it's always been a way of me. I just didn't have the courage to exercise it.
Yeah.
And then, what am I ending? Ending is the search for answers. I waste a lot of time searching for answers, and I realized the answers. As cliche as it sounds, they are in us, and they are in the form of question. And so back to how we began this conversation. So those are the things that that are ending and beginning to me, and they are probably more spiritual and philosophical than they are technical.
Yeah.
I've done a lot, and I've been able to be blessed to do a lot of things.
Yeah.
And do them well, with evidence of them being done. But that is the smallest part of me. Yeah. That is the most insignificant part of me.
It does. First of all, so many phrases you mentioned there are things to just cling on so tightly to, that leadership is demonstration. That just feels so clear and so true.
Oh, good.
I think this, idea of the last 6 years, how you've approached your work and a sort of return to self, I think is really interesting and really beautiful. And it actually does tie into one of the 6 questions that I had for you, which was about understanding. Something I've heard you say is talk about the experience of feeling understood or feeling not understood.
Yeah.
And maybe I'll just change my original question was going to be, what is something that you wish more people understood about you? But I feel the need to almost shift it to, although I'm interested in that question still, but almost, what do you wish you understood about yourself? What do you wish you understood about you?
Yeah. How much, I wish I understood about me, how much my presence and my part of a relationship is as important to someone as they are to me. I still kind of, that's a blind spot for me, quite frankly. And unless someone tells me, I usually fall into the belief, and maybe it's wishful, that my part in it doesn't matter. And it doesn't, like, my part in it doesn't matter to me as much as that person matters to me. And my part in it doesn't matter to them. And it actually does. And so, and I think I do that wishfully sometimes, not all the time, because it doesn't allow me to bear a certain responsibility within the fray.
Yeah.
That I can come.
Yeah.
I can bring my things, do what I have to do, and leave.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because what matters is what I'm bringing, not who I am.
That's what I was curious about. Because at first thank you for sharing, first of all. At first when you started sharing, I didn't quite get it. Why would Erik feel that way? May I offer a guess or a...
When I start sharing this morning, or
what you're sharing right now, to that answer
gotcha,
about how you want to understand you, and a guess that I have, but you can wrestle with this. Please push back if this is not right. Is putting myself in your shoes as someone who I could imagine, in a beautiful way, but also maybe a fraught way at moments, receives a lot of requests, desires from you, from your time, for your presence, for your validation, for, again, beautiful and fraught.
Yeah, absolutely.
A guess I have is maybe how I would understand what you want to understand about yourself is I could understand a reaction to people in that way being, you don't really need me. You need something else, and I'll provide it. But the feeling of sort of authentic desire for you holistically, I could imagine being who you are, all that you have done, all the ways in which you are perceived. I could see that being a result, but pushback if that doesn't actually feel
you're
right.
You're absolutely right. And you said you summed me up better than I summed myself up. It is, for the most part.
Yeah.
And this is not pejorative in any way. To anyone, or even to myself. But I always kind of fall into this belief that you want this. You don't need me.
Yeah.
And so you're absolutely correct. And that's sometimes that's really hard for me.
Yeah.
To find time to say no, to bring my whole self to the request. That's really, I find it difficult.
Yeah.
Because in both parts, I am not known. You know? And I think to your question earlier, and I'm so glad you remembered that, I think being understood is, for me, better than being known.
Yeah.
You know? And so that's why I say, in the end, I just want to be understood.
Yeah. A mini theory I have about feeling understood, and it wraps into a question, is I've had this sort of mini theory. It's almost a metaphor of a house that, you know, there can be a lot of people in the foyer, but maybe only need to have actually really 2 in the living room. And frankly, having 2 in the living room where you feel really understood by, you feel like you can be your goofiest self, whatever self that is, that's what wealth looks like. So I've had this mini theory, I don't know if it's right, but this mini theory that, you know, there might be shades of understanding of yourself by others, but if 2 people really know who Caroline is, I feel rich. Russell, like, how does that, I could be wrong. I could imagine myself in 5 years say, you know what, I actually feel layered about that or in a different way. Curious how that resonates with you, or how you would tease through that yourself.
I do. Now, are those 2 people particular people?
Yes.
Or they are?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
I mean, maybe they could change, but I don't think they do. I think it's, I think for me, it's my mom, my dad, and my sister, and it's Megan.
That's it. Yeah.
And, you know, if, you know, my mom and my dad are the people, all 4 of those people are the people that I just talk their ears off. I take up all their time, you know, and that's not an orientation I have with most, but that's because I feel like I'm my best self. I feel like they want to hear it and want to receive it. And we're in the living room.
Yeah.
And I feel in some ways that's why growth of the last year with my mom's health, you know, the 4th leg of the stool, has been something where I've had to grow.
Yeah.
What does it mean for that 4th leg of the stool to be shakier than it has been? That person in the living room who I can just be my worst self, be my best self with. And there's growth in processing what that looks like.
Let me ask you this then. Can I extend that a little bit? Yeah. You have a very public life, right? I have more of a public persona. I don't have a public life.
Interesting.
Right?
Yes.
You have a more public life. Like you're a public servant. And something that you signed up and you do very, very, very well. How does that square with showing up for people, with people, to get these things done, and then wondering, you know, knowing that those aren't the 4 legs of the stool, right? Those people, like, but the work has to get done, and so do you compartmentalize, or how do you square that or work within that?
A couple reflections, and I'm curious your version of this.
Of course.
I think one is maybe a theory and then a wish. A theory I have, what's immediately coming up for me is actually a theory I have about power that could be wrong, but you know, I remember before getting into a more, in some ways I feel like I've always been a public servant, but before getting into, before running for office specifically in this specific kind of role, where you say yes or no, and even though so many things are gray, you know, and you can't explain to every single person always across the table why you're making the decision that you do, but nonetheless you do. I remember a lot of people who were in capital P politics saying, you know, politics is about transaction, politics is about power, and politics is about someone getting something and you getting something in return. And I always push back against that. I could be wrong. Maybe that is what it is. And I'm not saying that's irrelevant. And I'm not saying that I certainly don't say that doesn't happen, because it does. But I've always been of the belief that there's this undercurrent of what it means to be human that is arguably just as powerful and influential to why people make the choices they do, which is about love, it's about legacy, it's about insecurity, it's about ego. There's this emotional layer that is, I think, arguably more powerful than just point A to point B, than just transaction. That doesn't necessarily make the world better. I just think it's true. I think it's true that we are led not just by what we get, but by how something changes our sense of self, by how it makes us, how we think about love and care, how we think about ego and the legacy we want to leave. And so I think why politics is the way it is just more complicated, more robust.
Yeah.
And it's, to get back to your question, I think that makes, for me, public service feel life-giving, because I don't think it's about the former exclusively. Yeah. I think that's relevant. But I think when you believe it's just about that, you become that. Yeah. And I think believing that humans are actually far more complicated, far more fibrous, why we make decisions, is way less intuitive than point A to point B. Yeah. I think makes me feel closer to more people in public service. Yeah. And then the wish I have, this is a very silly wish, but a wish I had in public service that is and just in the work that I do, that I really experience in the living room, is silliness and goofiness and humor. Yeah. I'm fairly, maybe similar to you. Yeah. I think a lot of the words that might be thrown around my personality are intense, or quite serious. Yeah. I often say I'm not very fun, but I think when I'm in the living room, I'm a kind of a goober, and I think a wish I have for myself, and part of that is because I'm comfortable, and I feel really close to myself. Yeah. And I think it's interesting. I'm 33 now. Over the course of my life, maybe this will never be true. Maybe I shouldn't desire this, but is one indication or proxy for comfort and ease and alignment is finding that goofiness come out more as I mature. Yeah. Is this a curiosity and a wish I have? How does that? No, how do those reflections land for you?
Thank you for sharing that. I'm very silly as well. Yeah. I really am. Yeah. And my four legs are my four daughters. Yeah. Of that stool, and at any time I'll be very silly and just burst out in laughter and tell stories with them. And again, to your point, there's a sense of ease, there's a sense of lack of being performative, or even not even performative. I've never been performative, but it's just not wondering who's watching me. That allows me to be like my silly self, and laugh and do a little dance here and there, believe it or not, right? And I think also, for me, I get a lot of critique. I get a lot of criticism. And I get a lot of praise. Yeah. And I don't deserve either. you know what I mean? Yeah. Because to your point about politics, you're right. Because what you were explaining in terms of your heart and your kind of motive around politics is really kind of power to the people. Yeah. It's not, you do this and you get this, and because you did this, I get that. But how do you do things that will affect the masses of people? And I'm not saying power to the people as a Black Panther slogan. I mean that, like, power to all people. That's right. Right? That's really, that's probably, going back to your question, that's what I want to be most understood for. Right? I do a lot of things on behalf of Black communities, Black people. One, because I'm Black. Two, because nobody else does. And the basis by which I do this work is to find ways to bring people together because everybody has stuff.
Yeah.
I don't care what
Yes.
race you are,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It's just that people who are impoverished, they're not able to hide their stuff as well as people who have, who are affluent,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So they have mechanisms to hide all their mess. Poor people don't.
Yeah.
And so, so it's not that I'm just pro-Black and anti-white. I am not. I'm not at all. And so that's one thing. Secondly, to your point, I've been having these conversations with both teams, and we're about to open this really large, beautiful building.
Yeah.
That sits in one of New Haven's major arteries in a community that has no investment in decades.
Yeah.
Outside of the Q House, right? And we're building this building and bringing service, and utility to this community especially, as well as the city of New Haven. And one thing that I've been talking about a lot is this building, what we are doing first is an invitation to this community. The building represents an invitation to the Dixwell community because they've allowed us to trespass on their land. And secondly, after the invitation, there is the offering. We are now offering this building to Dixwell and to the world, meaning that we were called to build and maintain it, but it is not ours. It is the people's building, right?
Yeah.
And because the hope is that CONCAT and Concord, both organizations, will be enduring institutions, that they will live beyond us. And if that is the case, Caroline, then everything that is within this building and about this work is not ours.
Yeah.
It is for the people. Because we won't be here. If I left today, I have no stake. I don't take anything.
Yeah.
So it's not mine.
Yeah.
I've just been blessed to think it through and kind of execute with a host of other people who work with me. And so that being said, that is kind of a political equation in my opinion, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Right. That's to me, when you were saying that, I was like, yeah. Those are politics
That's
to
right.
me.
That's right. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. So I think, so I agree with you. My hope is that other people will agree with me and start kind of employing that type of philosophy and belief around the built environment and what could be possible in communities.
That's right.
As we continue to build anew.
That's
right. A lot of the stuff that you're doing is looking at things, which I've been so impressed with, looking at things and not tearing them down, but making them better. Right? How do we expand upon this? And so that's the way I looked at Dixwell.
Yeah.
Like this beautiful sacred ground.
Yeah.
That has had no investment, but has incredible spirit and pride and history and stories. How do I expand on that?
Yeah.
How, and if they allow me to join into the story of now, then how can I write with them a new story?
Yeah. Two things. It does feel like a tie back to the beginning of our conversation, where you mentioned a woman, I don't remember her name.
Jackie Bracey.
Miss Jackie, who said, do things have to die in order to move forward? And it sounds like your answer to her is a demonstration of leadership, and then also is a set of other questions that you just asked.
That's right. That's right.
And although I'd be curious your thoughts, but although maybe this isn't an answer, some part of me, if I'm hearing an actual answer, it's not a no, but it's that change requires some some things to die and some things
Yeah.
to live stronger than they were before.
Yeah.
Do you believe that to be true? That
Absolutely.
that is the essence of change?
Absolutely. Sometimes things, although they are not there visibly, they are in here, they're living.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the new is being built from that.
Yes. Yeah.
And so before building a physical building, a manifestation of the idea, I sat with people and heard stories and listened to histories and listened to family legacies and all these things that I would ask questions about, because I didn't know. I didn't know. But I wanted to be able to, one, listen and create a space where people can speak, because a lot of times I've learned when you're taking something away, sometimes people don't want it to stay, but they want to speak to it. And I realized that, and I realized that because I was making mistakes. and so what I did was I sat with people, not a lot, there were large meetings, of course, but I would sit with people and I would just ask questions, not really, not caring more about the answer than I cared about the person speaking.
Yes. Yeah.
Because I realized, we are taking symbols away. We are taking things that evoke emotion, buildings that evoke emotion, rooms that evoke emotion, that create reflection about a moment in time to people. And they're not speaking about it. They're yelling. And they're speaking in a way that elicits, or it's coming out as anger and confusion. And that's because I didn't do a good job of creating a space and place for them to just speak.
When you think about moving forward, and you think about that idea that change is a little bit of something being something shedding and something growing or being augmented, what's something about the next few years that for sure, based on all the listening, based on what's in here, that needs to be true about this built environment, about this space? And what's something that you're like, I don't know yet, actually. I don't know the answer to that question. I'm not sure if that's the right call.
Wow, there's a lot for that one. Because you never know. I just never know. You hope, you pray, and you keep moving, and you keep executing. I don't know if there is an enduring love that will sustain all, or that would create or liberate all that should be happening. Because a lot of times things don't happen and things aren't there that are in need or in service to people because nobody gives a damn about the people. And the work that we endeavor to do is based on need. It's based on love. Like this, the idea that I am called to do this, and I have no choice but to do this. And in doing so, there is not only a love that it came from, there's a love that endured and grew, which then created a kinship.
That's right.
And so I don't know if that will happen. I don't know if that will continue. I don't know. I'm not saying it won't, but it's a very specific, like an essence of things.
A reflection and then a follow-up on that. I mean, it resonates so much. It makes me think about an area where we have found that enduring love, and I think that's LGBTQ rights. And, you know, one of the reasons why we've gotten to this place where when I was in high school, I would never conceive of coming out to being able to hold hands with my fiance, Megan, down the streets of New Haven. We made so much progress. My theory, and I don't think I'm nearly alone in thinking this, is because our sons and daughters are gay, because our uncle, who we spent every Christmas with, because of that proximity, at least in some part, also advocacy and fight and challenge and the audacity. But I do wonder if at its root, it's that we're proximate to each other. We loved people. Someone who didn't understand me loved me and therefore changed. And so I think about that because I think about how can that be true in challenges where someone isn't your daughter, where you might never understand the experience, but nonetheless we make the choice. And I think that a question for you would be, how do we create the conditions in this city, that we love, for that enduring love to sustain as long as it can?
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. And you know, you fought to love, and you fought to be loved the way you wanted to be loved, right? In the open, where it is a salient demonstration of not only who I love and who loves me, but who I am.
Yeah.
And I fear for an enduring love because there is such a focus on survival versus love.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there's such a focus on power in a way that has nothing to do with love.
Yeah.
And so I think as it relates to the city, I think the city, I believe, and I don't know much, I really don't, you know. I don't know the mechanics of how things work. I know the people, and I know they're wonderful people. And I think sometimes wonderful people their love can be compromised because they need to survive. And I think that happens a lot in municipalities. I think that happens a lot in institutions, especially, you know, financial institutions, where the love that you have for people, the love that you have for community, the love that you have for family, the most purest essence of who you are becomes compromised once you enter the doors of an institution that doesn't value that. You start surviving as opposed to loving. And so we have to find a way to love or prioritize creating spaces where everybody thrives. Right? Social justice to me is not that everybody is wealthy. Right? But what is just is everyone has enough. And the ways in which we do that is we have to love the people who don't have enough. And the only way you can do that is you have to be proximate to the pain and suffering of the people, but also to the beauty of those people and to the victories of those people. Because what you'll realize is that they are as I said it earlier, they are no different than you. You know? I say it all the time. I grew up in abject poverty. I live a life of privilege now. But I lived in poverty longer than I lived in privilege. And so I understand both worlds and speak in both worlds. And the craziest thing is, they're really the same. One just has more resources and you can get stuff you want, not stuff you need. You know? And so I walk in the world with those sensibilities of poverty, not privilege. You know? And so back to your question, I think I think it is that. I think there is this tension between love and survival, especially when you work within institutions or work within systems and frames that that don't prioritize how one feels, right? And one has to perform in a way that not to perform in a way that makes things better for the world, but perform in a way that lets people know you did your job.
That's right. That's right.
And that's a I believe, that's a miserable place to be. Did I answer your question?
You did.
Okay.
You did. Sometimes I often wish that in politics there was a return from politician to public servant, and that the role of politicians and public servants were treated far differently in our society. Were far less connected to some of the same underpinnings as celebrity, and focused far more on humble, quiet service. And I wonder what it would take to shift some of those cultural underpinnings, that not that it can't be a profession or a role that doesn't elicit pride or honor, but that is not seen in the way that it is right now, but is seen in a much more, almost more like stewardship, and which is leadership, but seen in a different kind of way. I think about a mayor like Mayor Michelle Wu, who I think in many ways, I mean, everyone's flawed, but I think she practices a kind of humble, quiet public service, which I think is very beautiful. What is maybe as we head towards the end of our conversation, what is this is just very concrete. What's a book you're reading? What are you looking forward to this summer? What do you put in your juice in the morning?
That's a good question.
Do you have and our books? You mentioned books when you were talking so beautifully about your mom.
Yeah.
You also could be listening to something. You also could be watching something. But what's something that you are bringing into yourself right now?
So I've been in school for the last 2 years. So I've been reading.
So you've been reading a lot.
I've been reading like 300 pages a week. Literally. Well, and just given where I went to school, you had to read.
Yeah.
You can't go and fake it. So I had to read. But I'm a reader. So I'm so excited to be able to read what I want this summer. I don't know what I'm going to read.
Yeah.
But I'm excited to read just for pleasure now. I love mint and cucumber in my juice.
Yes. Yeah.
Something about that combination that whatever it could be apple juice, whatever, as long as it's mint and cucumber. I really like that. And I've been really focusing on prayer a lot, like my relationship to the divine and locating the divine in myself and locating the divine in the built environment allows me to show up with a deeper intention, more deeper than I've ever had. And I'm intense about what I've been called to do. I don't play with that.
Yeah.
I don't play with people's lives. I don't play with people's trust in me, right? Because people trust you now. They do. And they have an expectation of you that maybe you won't deliver. And maybe you won't change things.
Yeah.
But you sure will address them.
Yeah.
And so, and then also thinking about, you used the word earlier, power.
Yeah.
And what does that mean when you have it? What does it mean when I have it and didn't look for it? Right? This isn't about the accumulation of power for me or even influence. And so, and I think, having power and people and having influence with people has everything to do with their values.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how and the way people see me has everything to do with what they value. And so I've been thinking about that as well. What does all that mean? And, what am I responsible for? And that's why prayer is really important to me, because it grounds me, centers me in what matters in the world and what matters in me. So I'm ingesting all of those things. Yeah.
Beautifully said.
Thank you.
One your final sort of reflection on that, and one last micro question under that is, I really the way you talked about trust resonates a lot, and I often think about how there's only two things in the world you truly can only earn. There's no shortcutting, and that's laughter, and that's trust.
I love that.
And you can't, I'm sure people fake laughter, but ultimately deep laughter from the belly, trust down to the marrow, you can't shortcut that.
That's right.
And nor do we want it to be shortcutted.
That's right.
And I think it's one of the most tremendous feelings of the world to have been worthy of trust.
Mm-hmm.
And then my micro question for you is, we didn't even talk about div school, not much, but is there a passage or is there a paper that you read in these last 2 years?
Yeah.
That just, you're not going to forget that. It's going to be 30 years from now, and you're like, I didn't forget that I read.
Oh man, that's a good question. Yeah. So the passage is one that I want to underscore and highlight because it's probably my favorite little line that Apostle Paul writes in his letter to the Ephesian church. And he just says this small line. It's a larger, of course, discourse, but he says that in the dispensation of the fullness of time, that little beautiful phrasing, the dispensation of the fullness of time, that when time, to your point earlier, that when the fullness of time happens, the end, right? But he goes on to say, he talks about the returning of Christ. But for those who don't believe, right, it still bears witness to the dispensation of the fullness of time. That is so beautiful, because that will happen.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what you believe or not. It happens after that. And so I work from that.
Yeah.
I work from that phrasing, right? The dispensation of the fullness of time.
The visceral feeling of the end, or of life becoming more full, or that end being where time is at its most full, just the visceral feeling of that is, like life distended, through time is just that's beautiful. And I think that's, talking about the ending is a beautiful way of hearkening back to the beginning. I think is a beautiful way to end our conversation today.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
you so much.
You're great.
Appreciate it.
Oh, man, you're the greatest. You really are.